still remember the evening that I told my family that I was going to leave my medical career to do an apprenticeship. My father, he was concerned about me being able to support a family. How would I be able to feed them if I went and did that? And my sister, she just thought I was foolish to leave behind my medical career to do a ministry apprenticeship. Think about all the money that I was giving up to do this. And that whole idea of giving up money really didn't hit me until a little bit later on. So I was having a lunch with some friends. We were by the Sydney Harbour. It was a glorious Sydney day. The water was sparkling. There were floor-to-ceiling glass windows. It was a lovely day. And we talked about our futures of what lay ahead of us. And they were talking about training for specialties, going on overseas holidays, buying houses, building their practice. And all I'd been thinking about was finding a unit to move into in Randwick, and the fact that I wouldn't be receiving an apprenticeship scholarship and my church wouldn't allow me to raise any money. It's no surprise, is it, that finances can be one of those real concerns that people struggle with when it comes to them taking their next steps towards ministry training. And it's the same type of questions, aren't they? Will I have enough to live on? Will I have long-term security? Is this a cost that I'm willing to bear? And for some of us, especially those of us who live in very expensive cities like Sydney, with skyrocketing property prices, is this a decision that will set me back in life forever? It's a real concern. Yet at the same time, I think that much of our struggle comes down to what we're expecting. And here's a passage from Proverbs chapter 30, verses 7 to 9 that I found very helpful to reflect on for myself. And here in the proverb, it says, "Two things I ask of you, Lord, do not refuse me before I die. Keep falsehood and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise I may have too much and disown you and say, 'Who is the Lord?' Or I may become poor and steal and dishonour the name of my God." What surprised me when it came to finances was that while I truly believed that what I was doing was right and the needs of the gospel outweighed any of my own needs, I was constantly surprised about how the issue of finances affected me and how it made me feel. It made me feel vulnerable. Why? Because rather than supporting myself and working to provide myself a living, now by heading towards ministry, I had to rely on the generosity of others because that's the way ministry works. Those of us in ministry are supported through the generosity of God's people. That made me feel vulnerable. And it also made me feel different. As I said before, my life was going this way, my peers' life was going that way. My lifestyle, my living standards were going to be different. If for no other reason, I was leaving the workforce to becoming a student again for the next 6 years. But having said that, as I reflect on the past, at no stage was I ever worried about not having enough to live on. At no stage did I ever think that I would be in trouble for this decision. At worst, if things didn't work out, I could go find a job. And that's because, at least for us here in Australia, not having enough to survive on or being particularly concerned about a long-term financial security aren't really a challenge for us. We do live in the lucky country. In the end, I think what the challenge is what do we expect? What do we expect when it comes to our finances? What do we expect when it comes to our lifestyle? And are we willing? Are we willing to live differently to those around us in order to give ourselves to the task of bringing the gospel to the world? Are we willing to not own a house and rent instead? Are we willing to not go to the places we've always dreamed about? Are we willing to not travel overseas? Are we willing to not have the latest phones or latest computers? Drive an older car? Live more simply? And if the money isn't there to pay for our ministry, are we willing to follow in the footsteps of the Apostle Paul in supporting ourselves through our work? And here is the hard one. For those of us who are parents or wish to be parents, are we willing to allow our children to experience that as well, even if it marks them out as being different from the children around them? Now, hear me clearly. I'm not saying that this is the lot of people in ministry. Many of us live very well and are in no danger of poverty. But the question that we need to keep on asking ourselves when it comes to our decision to head towards ministry is, are we willing? Are we willing to do what it takes, even to the point of putting money to one side in order to serve the Lord? Are we willing to embrace the approach of the author of the Proverbs and seek that life between having too much and having too little? In case the issue of our finances damages our relationship with God, with us trusting in our finances rather than trusting in Him. And in case the issue of our finances leads us down the wrong path, where we end up serving ourselves rather than the needs of the gospel.